like crazy. Everybody's trying to stimulate it. Sputters in the mirror and films can't be right. Back to the scene of a Friday night, to a blessed collision, still frozen time. Spear drinkers, Cupid and the sound of her first chime. And why did you argue? We're dreaming of those eyes, the best part of my life. And when we make love, babe, don't make a sound, the clock won't turn around. Ooh, you turn around, 2,000 little fires. And ooh, you circle, you spread it. Slowing things down when I wanted to.
Hello, my friends. Hello. Welcome back to my channel. You are precariously perched on my truck once more. But today's Friday. I don't really, honestly, it's so weird. Like, I don't really love filming vlogs on the weekends just because I feel like my family's always home and I'm always busy with my family, and I don't have a lot of just like quiet time to talk to my camera, talk to you all. But I don't really have any videos planned, and I also just kind of wanted to vlog and just take you along with what I'm reading. So hi, welcome. So I just have spent the last couple of days like skipping around from audiobook to audiobook trying to find one that was going to really stick with me. I kind of had a little bit of trouble, so currently I am listening to A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. I just read in July, I read Divine Rivals by her, and I really liked it. That was a YA fantasy. This is her adult fantasy, and I believe this is like, I don't know exactly the mythology. I feel like it's Celtic, but I could be wrong. But I started this, and I'm liking it a lot so far. Rebecca Ross, I feel like her writing style is a little bit quiet, gentle, and her storytelling is a little slow. I like that, actually. I really, really love slow building stories, so I'm enjoying this a lot. I don't know why my hair looks so, like, flat, but... So I don't entirely know what the premise of this is yet, other than I know we've been introduced to our main character, and he was like a traveling bard, and he was called home by his laird, I believe, which makes me think, is this Scottish? I'll have to double check on the mythology. I apologize. Honestly, in my last few vlogs, I've been like, I think it's this, or I can't remember the name because I haven't taken the time to check before I started my camera. Like a dummy. So that's the one that I'm currently listening to. I've been in a really big adult fantasy, or just fantasy in general mood, so I am enjoying this a lot. I know this has like fae, I think, involved in here, like the sort of like whimsical spiritualistic type of fae, like that sort of is like one with nature. So I'm excited about that. Actually, I'm gonna listen to that while I work this morning. I've got to finish some sculptures and get some sculptures shipped out, and then yeah, it's a long weekend too, so this vlog, I kind of hope to have this done to go up by Tuesday, but we'll see how much reading I actually get done. Another thing is that I just recently subscribed to this author's YouTube channel. They write closed-door romances and historical romances, and I saw her posting on Instagram that she had audiobooks on her YouTube channel, like full audiobooks that you could listen to. So I went and subscribed, and I just saw in my feed that this one had just come up. So I actually just started listening to this. I'm only a few minutes into it. So I'm going to see which one is calling me more, and then at my next update, I will let you know which one I picked and what I think about it so far. So I can't even remember the title, but here's a picture of the cover of that historical romance, and I will have her YouTube channel linked down below, because if you want free audiobooks provided by the author and you like historical romances, like, maybe check them out. I haven't listened to any of them, but I think that's really amazing, honestly. So I'm excited about that one. And it's also short. I think the audiobook is only like 5 hours. So, and then for the last little while, like a couple of weeks actually, I've been kind of picking away at this book. It is Ruling Sithgard. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's this book. I've only read the first in this series, and I believe this is book 7. It recently came out. The author sent me an ARC, but I didn't get it read in time. Just life, you know, life just happened, and I was already like, when I got this ARC, I was already so deep into The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab, which I'm planning to do a review video just for that book coming soon, and I'll also touch on the first 3 books in that series. So I was already so deep into that I tried to like put that aside and go back to this sci-fi alien romance, and I just could not. My brain was so wrapped up in the V.E. Schwab story and world, and it also just didn't feel fair because the V.E. Schwab world, in my opinion, is so beautifully built and well done that it was affecting my opinion of this sci-fi romance that I don't expect to have the same type of world building but it was affecting my opinion of it, and I didn't want that to happen. So I finished the V.E. Schwab, 6 stars, absolutely adored it. It's the first in a new series, but it is a spin-off of her previous series. So you do have to have read the previous series to read this one. But, so now that I had finished that, I've been going back to this one, but I just haven't had a lot of time to read physically. So I'm hoping that an audiobook really just captivates me and I get swept away in it today. We shall see. I just stopped and got a Diet Coke from my soda shop. This one is just the classic Diet Coke, fresh lime, sugar-free coconut. Can't be the classic. So, all right, I'm gonna go about my day, and I'll update you when I have anything to say about a book. Hello, friends. Hello. Okay, so it's Saturday morning. I didn't really listen to audiobooks yesterday. I did a little bit, but then I just ended up listening to YouTube videos, and I'm having a hard time sticking with an audiobook, and it makes me so sad. I don't know what is wrong with my brain. Like, it doesn't matter what speed I put it on, and it doesn't even really, I can't tell which audiobooks I'm gonna like or not, because like some of them I start and I'm like, yes, this one is it. And then I end up losing interest. So I really truly feel like a lot of it is anxiety. I feel like for some reason my anxiety is just like running fast all the time. I know it has to do with my health. I have an upcoming surgery. It's going to be very expensive. And then my work, like I have so many orders I'm trying to get done that I'm very stressed about those. So I've got to try and figure out a way to deal with the stress, because that stress isn't going away anytime soon. And I'm grateful for the work. It's just, I feel the orders, I'm just stressing about getting them done on time. And I never get them done on time. But anyway, hello, hi, thank you for watching this vlog, and welcome to my anxiety rant. So, I woke up this morning at like 5 a.m. and I was so like tired, but I knew I couldn't go back to sleep. And so I was thinking about either going into my studio and working or reading. And I decided to read because I wanted to see if I could go back to sleep. And I did eventually, but I also ended up finishing Ruling Sithgard. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I probably am not, but this is book 7 in the Clickanian sci-fi alien romance series, and the author reached out to me probably like 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe, and asked if I wanted an ARC because she had seen that I had really liked choosing Theo, and I said, sure, yeah. And then I got the ARC, and it just so happened, like, sometimes this happens to me when I request ARCs, is that, especially if they're, like, unexpected, they all kind of come at the same time. So I had, like, 3 ARCs that I was kind of needing to read right away, and this was one of them. But I did talk about earlier how I was, like, deeply into the V.E. Schwab book, so I didn't really put this one as a priority. So then, anyway, this book just came out, I believe, on the 30th, last Tuesday anyway. So it's out now, and I didn't get it done in time, but I really wanted to read it and leave a review. So I finished that one, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I really liked it. I will say that I've only read book 1 and book 7 in this series, so I feel like there's a lot of world information and background story that I'm missing. But I still think that the author did a really good job of providing you with that background information and background story. Sometimes a little bit too much. I feel like sometimes the background story plot took over for the romance. It didn't feel like it was as seamlessly blended as I wanted it to be. and sometimes there were long passages of description of the political climate and things that had happened in the world, and that I usually I really eat that stuff up, you know, like I just have been on like a fantasy binge, but I really was so into the romance that I just wanted more of that. So I really liked the romance. This is a king who has taken our heroine, who she's like tried to escape. The whole premise of this world is it's like a sci-fi alien planet, and they are missing women, and they have found out that human women can mate or like be mated with the men on their planet, and so they kind of end up getting women in nefarious ways. They end up getting kidnapped and things like that. So this woman and a bunch of her friends ended up trying to escape. They were caught, thought they were doing some things against like the political climate at the time. So the king has her prisoner, and he has like a jaded past. He has a woman who betrayed him that he's very, very wary, and like it's pretty intense, like the back history of him. Sorry, I didn't put this on a tripod and I'm regretting it. So what he ends up doing is like really getting intrigued with our human woman named Sophia, and he starts falling for her. And there is a lot of this book that is very slow build, and there's also a lot of this book where we're in his head as he's thinking about her and observing her and how he feels about her. And it's just like, I just love that so much. I love when the hero like presents this front of, I'm not interested in her, I don't like her, so he kind of appears to be her enemy and cold and cruel, but on the inside he like can't stop thinking about her and is very, very almost obsessed with her, but in like not a stalker type of way. I really liked their romance. It was very slow burn. I think the ending kind of wrapped up a little quickly as well, but I really enjoyed it, and it was also giving me like Avatar vibes for sure, like the way that the aliens are described and they have tails, and it was fun. I liked it a whole lot, and 4 stars, so I'm glad I read that one. So now I did make a little bit of progress on A River Enchanted, but I kind of feel like I don't know that I want to stick with that for this vlog. I'm gonna try and listen to that, and if it isn't holding my attention, I'm gonna try and find a different audiobook. I'm actually kind of feeling, for the first time in a long time, like a contemporary romance. I don't know why. I haven't read a contemporary romance in quite a while, so we'll see. Go through my audiobook collection and see what I can find. So there's a reading update for you. I'll check in when I have some more to say. Thank you for being here. Hi, hello. I am at the gym, and I'm the only one in this here little aerobics room, so I thought I would give you guys an update because I did start listening again to A River Enchanted, and I'm only about 15% of the way in, and I am, like, I really like her writing, I really like the setup of this, I like the characters, but I just feel like it's too much work for my brain at this moment, which, to pay attention to it, if that makes any sense at all. So I'm going to put that on hold or on pause for a minute, and I saw a really beautiful cover of The Words posted by Nikki from Nikki and Bookland, and it reminded me that I have that book on audio and I wanted to read it. Now, I know I know people who absolutely love this book, and I know people who absolutely hate this book. And let me just tell you a little bit about my thought process on this, okay? I saw her post the cover for this, and around like 2012, 2013, when indie romance was like first becoming a thing, I absolutely loved toxic rock star romances like Thoughtless. I freaking loved that book. I ate it up. And that was quite a while ago, you know? And I think that I have much less tolerance for certain things in my books than I did back then. But like, when I hear people talk about a book that they love and I'm at all intrigued about it, I want to pick it up. Like, I want to experience it because I want to feel like that too. I want to love this book too. I keep looking like, is somebody coming in? I want to love this book too. I really, really do. So I'm also interested in picking this up right now because I want something that's like going to catch my attention right away and hopefully hold it. And I also am like, I don't know if it's because fall is here or if I landed on Buffy and Spike TikTok, but I have just started rewatching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the show. And so I'm kind of in the right headspace, I think, for a little bit of melodrama and a little bit of almost like that teenage new adult type of angst. So here's the plan, okay? I'm going to now start reading the words. I have the audiobook. I'm going to start the audiobook. I have, full disclosure, I have started this audiobook before, and I didn't really have anything wrong with it other than it just didn't feel very much like A River Enchanted. It feels like it's maybe not what I'm looking for right now. That's how I felt about the words. And with a book that is so well loved and also so hated by some people, I want to kind of give it my best shot. But I really am feeling like in the mood for this right now. I'm just feeling like this is what I want to read. I want to try it. So I'm going to try it. And like, I hope that y'all watching this know that I don't hate read a book. If I pick up a book, even if I feel like it might not be for me, I'm literally doing that because first of all, it's curiosity. And second of all, I really want to love it. I want to experience and love these books the way that so many other people do. So I am starting this with the best faith. I'm starting this with like a completely open mind as much as possible. And I'm going to try and be as tolerant as I can to things that I may not like. And hopefully I love it. I really hope I love it. The only thing I know about it is it's enemies to lovers. I think there's a time jump. Is it maybe bully instead of enemies to lovers? I don't actually know. It could be bully, which typically doesn't work for me. So I don't know. We're going to see. We're just going to go with it because it's just like an impulse that I'm having. Like, you should read that. And it's all Nikki's fault. Not really, because she posted that beautiful special edition cover, which you should go look it up on Instagram if you're curious about that. So I'm going to start that right now. I haven't even started my workout. I just did a little bit of warming up on the treadmill. So I'm going to start that right now. And yeah. So here's the thing though. Because I mentioned Nikki and I know she loved this book, if I feel like this is going to be a 1-star read, the next clip is just going to have me talking about a different book. I'm not going to go into detail about it. Maybe. Anyway, I'm going to start it right now. I'm hungry. I need to work out and go home and eat. And I'll talk to y'all later. Okay, quick update. I'm sorry. They've all been quick updates. Maybe that's better. But I am on chapter 6 of the words. And I have to say, I am hooked. I definitely am hooked. This is exactly what I was looking for. This is scratching that teenage melodrama itch very much. So I'm excited. I really hope I love it. I really do. I really do. And yeah, I'm going to keep listening. Wish me luck. Let's hope for the best. I think, yeah, mood is such a big deal when we're picking books. Mood and expectation. That would be like a really good discussion video, huh? Let me know if you'd like to see that. Okay, I'll see you in a bit. Maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Hello, friends. Okay, so it is Sunday. Sunday is like the only day that I take off from work making my sculptures for my business, and so I usually end up just resting a ton, watching shows with my family if they're home, and they usually are home, and reading. So I am 40% of the way into the words, and I am definitely going to finish it. I really like it. I really, really do. I definitely I can see some big flaws, and that's not entirely fair. I can see some flaws. I can see more things that would be very difficult to be palatable for a lot of readers. So 40% in, I'm still super invested in the story. Like, this is the type of book that I'm really having a hard time putting down, which is exactly what I've been wanting. I'm so happy about that. And I think that the audiobook narration is excellent. Like, I really love the narrators. They're fantastic. They're very famous. I don't typically fangirl over audiobook narrators, but this is a name. I can't think of it right now. I think Teddy Hamilton, maybe, that is often talked about. Well, that's not true. I do have some favorite narrators, but this narrator isn't like one of my absolute favorites. Anyway, that was a weird little rant. So 40% of the way in. So this is a second chance romance, and I'm going to tell you some things that I think are done right, and I'm going to tell you some things that I can see how this would be like a problem for a lot of readers and why they wouldn't enjoy it. So probably the biggest thing, we'll talk about the things that I think people won't enjoy. Probably the biggest thing that I think has, you know, it really hasn't affected my enjoyment, because I went into this book fully expecting high school melodrama. Like, that's what I was expecting, and not only was I expecting that, that's what I wanted, and it did deliver on that. But I don't think it's done poorly at all. I think that the setup for this book is really excellent. I really love the opening. I really liked their high school years. I think that was a really good backstory to the characters. Phoenix, the hero, and Lennon, the heroine. Phoenix has a pretty terrible home life, and he has these dreams to be a musician. And Lennon is living with her dad. They have a really great relationship, and her mom died when she was a baby, and she is a plus-size woman, and she also writes songs. So the opening setup is when she gets basically like hired by her teacher to tutor Phoenix in English, because Lennon is really good at that, so that he can pass his class. So she agrees to do that, and that's how they start getting to know one another. And I'm not going to go back and say this is what's good, this is what's not good, but the high school melodrama, it is there, but I don't feel like it's overblown. I actually feel like this author has a pretty good grasp on the push and pull of melodrama and feeling over the top and reining it in for quiet moments. I think she's doing that actually really well for my taste. And I think that overall, the story in this book is very solid. Like, the events that lead, not just plot-wise, but like the story that conveys both the tone, the characters, the feeling, the vibe, any types of themes, I think and the plot, all of those things are working together to really make this what I think is a very engaging story, which I love so much. So when they are high school kids, I think they're in their senior year, I think they're both 18, and which I'm so happy about, because like any high school or underage romance that involves explicit scenes, I want absolutely no part of. So they are 18 before anything actually happens, like, hallelujah. But I think that the way that they develop their friendship and feelings for each other is really successful and really well done. And I particularly like how both of them have a lot of insecurities about certain things, and they can't initially see why the other person would be insecure about something, you know? Like, Lennon feels like Phoenix has nothing to be insecure about because he's just this beautiful, attractive boy and popular, talented, and all this other stuff. And those are the things that she maybe feels like are missing about her. And she's like, what do you have to worry about? But then she comes to find out, you know, his broken home, his abusive father, his, a lot of stuff, you know, he has like a learning disability and things like that. And then he thinks, what do you have to even be upset about, you know? And she's thinking, I'm not the pretty girl I get teased and made fun of. I'm overweight. And that is a point of, you know, something that I think would be hard for a lot of readers, is that we're in her head, and she really talks a lot about how she sees herself as undesirable. And there's a ton of emphasis on how her being overweight is very unattractive, both from her point of view, from everybody else's point of view, and even from Phoenix, the hero's point of view. So I think that is really, really tough to read about, honestly. But I also do feel like it's not a deal breaker for me personally. But like, I could see how this would be really hard for a lot of people to read because of that, and because of how often we are in Lennon's head. But when Phoenix looks at her, he sees, you know, she's got this nice house, she's got plenty of money, doesn't have to worry about being hungry, she's got a dad who loves her and takes care of her. You know, he sees her as just privileged. So I think that's such an interesting dynamic, and I think that's very realistic for how a teenager would feel about perceiving somebody else. And I also really, really like how that sort of allows them to talk about things and realize that, oh wait, I thought you had everything, but you don't because of this reason. And I think that is like the basic beginning of empathy as a teenager. And I really, really liked how that was depicted here. And I think the catalyst that breaks them up, that causes the time jump, and, you know, it's a second chance romance too. I thought that was actually really good. I think this has a very solid setup for enemies to lovers. And once you know what that catalyst is that breaks them up, I think that her behavior, her feelings towards him and his towards her, I think it really works to make it feel realistic in a way that yeah, I could see how they're enemies to lovers. So I think I really like the complexity of the relationship. I think the complexities are handled pretty well. The point where I'm at right now, they're back in each other's lives. They're not together by any means, but they're, you know, she's basically brought into his life. He's a big famous rock star now. She's been hired to be like his sober friend or whatever, to sort of help him to behave better, because he's really had a lot of issues with drugs and alcohol. And so they're hoping that she can kind of straighten him out and keep him on the straight and narrow path. So I think that also provides a lot of good setup for them to have opportunities to talk and get to know each other again, and to sort of work past all of the bad feelings they have towards one another because of what happened that split them apart. So honestly, I really like it. I think this is a very solid story. The writing to me is invisible, which I absolutely love. I don't have any critiques on the writing. If it's good or bad, I'm not noticing it. I'm just involved in the story, which is what I want. I love it so much. I really am glad I picked this up, no matter what my final rating is. I think that I don't think this is going to be a 2 or a 1 star unless something really bad happens, which, I mean, it may. I don't really know what's coming next, but I'm having a really good time reading this. This is a reading experience that I am enjoying immensely, and it's wonderful. I mean, I also think it's interesting that, like, I was just sort of, like, thirsting and hungry for some, like, teenage melodrama, like a CW show, you know, like Vampire Diaries, which I loved and adored, and is one of my all-time favorite TV shows. And I had seen, like, I mentioned this earlier, I saw, like, some TikToks for Buffy and Spike, and I was like, oh, I want to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer again. So I had just started it, like, literally right before I listened to this audiobook, I was watching it. And just the way that they talk in Buffy, like, it's so cliche, it's so, like, over the top, but I was just sort of, like, eating it up, you know? And that's something I will say about this book, is that this author definitely leans into stereotypes. But it's not bothering me. Like, the characters fit into certain stereotypes, but it doesn't bother me. I'm just having a good time reading it. I really am, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy. So this is just this is a surprising turn of events, but I'm having a good time. So I'm going to continue reading, and I probably won't update you until I finish this book. And that'll probably be it for this vlog. But thanks for being here. I'll talk to y'all soon. All right, my friends, let's do it. Let's wrap up the book that I read. And I kind of thought that maybe I would have enough time to include the historical romance that I found on the author's YouTube channel, and I did not get a chance to finish reading that, but it is a book that I am definitely going to read, or at least I want to try some from that author's website, or YouTube, because I think it's super cool that she has those historical romances on full audiobooks on her YouTube channel. So I only listened to just a few minutes of it, just enough to know the narrator was pretty good, and it knew enough that I was like, I want to continue and see if I'll even like it. So yeah, so let's talk about the words, because I finished that book last night, and I feel like I have kind of complicated feelings towards it. So first of all, I think I did enjoy it. I really did enjoy the story. I have some good things, and I have some things that I think could have been better, not necessarily surrounding the content, other than the very heavy, like, fat shaming, body dysmorphia, eating disorder tendencies, like, that was painful. And I'm not at all saying that we should never have anything in books that is problematic. I think that's actually a really therapeutic way to process life, is by reading about it in fiction, but it definitely is painful to read. I think especially if you have had any type of body image, body dysmorphia, eating disordered tendencies in your life, I think this could be really, really hard to read. But I'm not saying the content shouldn't exist, and I'm not saying the content shouldn't be in here. I know, anyway, it was tough. It was tough mostly because of how much you were in the heroine's head. And then the fact that she did lose weight, and that really changed everyone's perception of her, and, you know, like, just those things that we deal with in the real life. And it just, there are some things in fiction that I think are more unpleasant to read about than others, and that, I think, is definitely one for a lot of people probably. It definitely is for me. But it wasn't anything that really super dimmed my enjoyment of the book. I think mostly because I knew that that was such a topic in here, and I knew that that was something that you were going to be in the heroine's head for a long time. Like, I knew that going in. So it wasn't anything that was like surprising, and it wasn't anything that felt like it was more than I was expecting, because I was definitely expecting all of that. You know what I mean? So my final rating on this, I feel like, is kind of complicated, because I really enjoyed the first bit when they're in high school, and the first bit when they're getting to like know each other. That first section when they're in high school, that's when they fall in love. And I love that. I really loved it. I loved watching that first time falling in love, and I just loved watching their relationship build at that point. I think that I was just really on board with that. I liked that a lot. And then when the event happens where Phoenix betrays Lennon and we jump into the future, I was also on board with that. I really was. I really liked how the author was sort of unraveling the story and getting us. This is a book that I think is really layered with a lot of different plot concepts and ideas and story themes, but also in the way that it's executed. I liked how, for the most part, every single thing in this book moves the story forward, and moves the story forward in a way that also gets you to know the characters and helps you to understand maybe their motivations, with the exception of, well, not even the exception of that. I was going to say Phoenix and why he did what he did, but I think at the end you really sort of have some closure to understand why he did what he did, and that helps a lot. Another complaint that I've heard about this book is that he doesn't grovel enough, and I think that I think that's true, but I also feel like, is there any way he could have groveled enough to like make amends for that? I do think that the way that this book wrapped up and how he sort of tried to gain forgiveness and change, like, that's the biggest part to me about this book, is that you see Phoenix change at the end, and when he makes that change, when he does do something that promotes this change in his mind that he hasn't been willing to change at all, or he's been maybe afraid to change. I know I'm being vague. I'm trying not to spoil this. I feel like everybody has read it, but I did like seeing that thought process change in him. And when he made a decision for what he was going to do to try and rectify what happened, how he betrayed her, I really liked that, because to me that showed he had changed. He had changed his point of view. He had changed his mind. And I think when I say change, I don't mean that overnight he changed. But what I really love to see, especially in a hero who has betrayed or harmed the heroine in some way, I want to see a change in thought process, and I want to see the beginning of that in action. And I feel like we got that here, and that was really satisfying to me. I also really liked how this book felt very much like these two were sort of fated to be together and soulmates, but in a very, not in like a deep romantic soulmate type of way for me personally, but it felt soulmates in a way that was like, they can't stay apart, almost like a toxic soulmate type of thing, where they're continuously drawn together. They feel like they need to be together, but there is something that is like sick about the relationship and that doesn't work. And I think that adds to how addictive this story is, because you feel like they need to be together. You feel like this is a couple who loves each other, but they've got so much crap, so much trauma, so much hanging over their heads that they just kind of keep running into these roadblocks, you know? I think that this book also did something really well that I can be really critical of, and that is tropes. This book is full of tropes. There are seriously so many tropes in here, and I think rather than feeling tropey or feeling like it was just tropes thrown in, I think the author did something with those tropes that really contributed to the story, and that oftentimes, even though it felt like a very familiar or stereotypical or cliche trope, she was able to turn it in a way that felt fresh to me, and I liked that a lot. I loved all of the characters. I really did. I liked our couple. I really loved the background characters, and I want to read the next book that I think is Memphis and I'm not sure who. I think I know who. But I'm not sure if I should say if that's a spoiler or not. Anyway, I want to read the next book for sure. So overall, I really enjoyed reading this. Like, I truly did. This was fun. This was a fun reading experience for me. I was addicted. I was sucked in. I was living for the drama. This book is extremely dramatic, and I just had a great time reading it. You know, I really, truly did. So I am going to give it 4 out of 5 stars. I'm not sure if I mentioned that or not already, but it's interesting to me that so often lately I have really felt like, man, I just sort of feel like indie romance isn't for me. And I know, like, there are a lot of my favorite books are indie romance. Soft Flannel Hank, Forever Your Rogue, still, you know, like, a lot of my favorite books, all of Christina C. Jones' books, a lot of my favorite books are indie romance. But I think what happens is sometimes I get really frustrated. And this is like a flaw of mine. I shouldn't feel like this. Sometimes I get really frustrated when I see a certain book gain a lot of traction that I feel like I don't want that to be the book that represents the romance genre. Like, that's this frustration that I have, because I perceive there are books that are better, but that doesn't mean that they necessarily are in the broad opinion. Anyway, so I feel like I have gotten a little bit jaded about indie romance specifically this year, because I've been so frustrated with that issue, where I see a lot of flaws in the books that are getting a lot of hype and a lot of love, and where I see a lot of really excellent books not getting that same hype and love. I get frustrated, and then I feel like I get jaded, and then I just kind of stop reading indie romance, because I'm like, I cannot go back and read a book that has been gushed about by so many people only to feel like this is subpar at best, you know? Anyway, so this book very specifically is everything that I really would have loved and gone absolutely nuts over when I first started reading indie romance, when it first started hitting the scene, like 2012, 2013. Like, I feel like there were a couple of scenes in here that felt like a very specific nod to Thoughtless by S.C. Stevens, which is like an OG rock star cheating romance, you know? But I just really had a great time with this. I definitely see the criticism here, but I think that I was really able to overlook a lot of things that maybe normally would have really bothered me, and I was just able to get swept away, and I think that says a lot for this author's writing style, and also the narrators. I think that this is a very compelling read, this is a very addictive read, and I just enjoyed it a lot. So, is this the swooniest romance that I have ever read? In my opinion, it's not. I think that for me, this hits more of my bells that I'm wanting to get rung for, like, drama, addictive, almost like a soap opera type of thing, like that type, like a CW, like that CW show, like that's what this was, like, fulfilling that need, and I love that stuff so much. Like, I really enjoyed it. It was romantic, but like, when I think about this and something that I usually say is like a favorite romance or something that's really romantic, that's not what this is. One criticism I do have about this book is the middle. I think this book is definitely too long. It doesn't need to be too long. When I think about pacing, I think about what are the things that the author needs to show us to get us invested and to get us thinking, well, then what next, and what next, and what next, to get us pulled along through the whole story. A lot of things can contribute to pacing, but this book, I think, really suffered from a sloggy middle. I think the middle was really kind of boring, a lot of it. And I think for me personally, a lot of that was boring because their relationship for so long, when they get back together, really relies on their physical relationship and their chemistry. But it's not just, and this is something that I do think was interesting, but it's not just smut for the sake of smut. It is really serving a purpose, and it's really showing how Phoenix is sort of manipulating her by using the physical aspect of their relationship to get her to stay with him, and she is sort of using that physical intimacy with Phoenix as a band-aid to sort of cover up all of the problems that they have in their relationship so she can still be with him because she loves him. So in that way, I think it was effective at providing character insight and relationship insight, but it also was boring for me to read. Like, I'm not a spicy romance reader. I want to see that I did like how it did contribute to the story. Undoubtedly, there was just smut in here just for heat, spicy, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just not my preference. But I do wish that we had gotten a little bit more emotional development in those scenes and less of it being about like a manipulation tactic or a way to sort of put a blanket over their problems, you know? So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. And that's really why it's that, and that sort of like nebulous factor of this doesn't really hit me in my heart. That's completely. Like, there were definitely parts of this book that really like affected me and that made me feel things, but it doesn't like live in that corner of my heart that like my favorite books will, you know. But I did enjoy the heck out of it, and I do see why it's so well loved. I really did enjoy it, and it was a solid 4-star read for me. So I liked it a lot, and yeah. So thanks, Nikki, for posting that alternate cover, because if you hadn't done that, I would not have picked this up right now, and this was exactly what I needed, because it was an audiobook that got me sucked in, and I couldn't stop listening to it, except for some parts during the middle, and I was like, I'm bored. Fast forward. Anyway, okay, that's all, my friends. I'm going to go. This was a fairly long clip. I hope you all enjoyed this vlog. And yeah, if you've made it this far, please feel free to leave me a music note, and I'll see y'all in my next video.